Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. I just wanted to record tonight's dinner. It's a super easy recipe that's in one pot, which is my favorite way to cook. It is mussels and chorizo in a white wine sauce. You can also substitute the mussels for clams, and I'll tell you some substitutions as we go along, but it's super easy to make. It really only takes like 10 to 15 minutes. Again, it's in one pot. It has a lot of flavor. I double up the heat because Terry really likes this dish with a lot of heat, so it's gonna have a little bit more heat on it, but you can adjust that as well. And if you aren't a big mussels fan, you can use clams. You don't even have to use fresh clams or mussels. There's a really good frozen version that you can get in our area at a Ranch 99. Trader Joe's used to carry them, but I don't think they do any longer. But there's a frozen version that you can pop in that's really good quality, has a really good taste to it. So there are some really good substitutions. So I'm using a bigger pot today, so I'm going to change your view around a little bit so you can see straight down in the pot. So give me 1 second, let me adjust the camera and we'll get started. Okay, so we have our bigger pot here. I go a little bit bigger just because I feel like if there's any splashing or stuff, I don't have to worry about it. So I've already dropped 3 tablespoons of butter in here. The first thing we're gonna do is cook down some onions. I have 1 medium chopped onion. It's not a small dice. It's just a really nice chop. We're gonna move those around in there and get these to cook down probably for about 3 to 5 minutes. Let them just get a little soft, get their juices going. I'm going to sprinkle in some of my salt mixture. And if you watch some of the other videos, you know that this is a cup of garlic powder, a cup of black powder, and half a cup of kosher salt. So I'm gonna let those cook down just a little bit. Again, it's in 3 tablespoons of butter, and I have 1 chopped onion. It's not diced down. It's kind of a bigger chop, which is okay because we're not going to serve this on top of a pasta or anything. This specific dish is normally served with some kind of garlic bread or toasted bread, so I'm going to put some garlic bread in the oven later, but I already have the oven preheating. I'm going to let these cook down for about 5 minutes and I will be right back. Okay, so these have been cooking for about 5 minutes. You can see they're getting a nice color on them. They're getting nice and soft, bubbling around in that butter. I'm gonna turn my heat down just a little bit. This is a Pampered Chef, of course, pot, so it's really good at keeping the heat locked in, so you don't ever have to have it on a really high flame. But I'm going to add in my chorizo and get this cooked down. This is just under 2 pounds of chorizo. So this is gonna add all of our flavor in. And then while that is cooking down, I'm gonna add our garlic. So this is a garlic paste. If you watched any of the other videos, you know that I hate mincing garlic. So I use a lot of garlic paste in my recipes. I know right now we don't have a lot of that really good fresh paste and things on hand. So you can always use dried garlic flakes or dried garlic powder, excuse me. You just have to make sure that you're reading the back to see how it translates. So normally like 1 clove of garlic is 1 teaspoon of dried garlic powder. So you just want to make sure you're still using the right amount if you're making that substitution right now. Okay, so this chorizo is going to take about 5 to 6 minutes to cook down. We want to make sure that there's no pink all the way through. We're going to let it cook with these onions, the garlic, and get a really good sweat and flavor going, and then we're going to keep adding some more items in, so I'll be right back. Okay, so while the chorizo is cooking up, and it's cooking really well, it has a really nice fragrance going on, I wanted to go over the mussels. So these are just regular mussels. I get them from Ranch 99 out here because I like the quality of the seafood there. I cooked them earlier to make the recipe go a little bit faster, but basically I just steamed these. When I first got them, I wash them. I take all of the little, what they call beards off, which is just some extra little, they look like beards, like hairs that will be all over them to go along with like the barnacles type things. And then I tap it on the counter. And the reason why I tap it is because I want to make sure it's still a really good fresh mussel. And if you tap it and it pops open, it's not. You don't want to use those. So these are them. They're already cleaned and cooked and ready to go, so I'll add those in at the end. But you can substitute clams for these if you're not a fan of these. And it's the same way. I mean, you just steam clams, you wash them really well, tap them on the counter. If they pop open at all, don't use them. And then steam them, and you can add them in at the end if you want to just save some time, or you can add them in and you can add them in at the end cooked, or you can add them in at the end and just add some extra time for them to steam in your liquid or whatever you're cooking. The other trick is at Ranch 99 and Trader Joe's, they have an already cooked version of mussels and clams. I think Trader Joe's may have stopped carrying them. They come in garlic and butter. They're actually already cooked. You basically just pop them in the microwave for like 5 to 6 minutes, and they all pop open. They're clean, they're ready to go, and you can dump those in as well. So if you keep those frozen and on hand, you can use those instead of the fresh ones, and they're actually really good quality. At least the Ranch 99 and the Trader Joe's ones are. I don't know about any other store, and I know you have to be kind of choosy when it comes to this type of seafood. The other thing is I already have some mussel meat, and I do keep this on hand for when I make dishes at the last minute, and it's cooked and frozen. I get this also at Ranch 99, and I think you can also get it at Trader Joe's, and there's a clam version of it. So when I make linguine and clam sauce, I use the clam version, but with this particular recipe, obviously it has mussels, but you can change those out. It's going to cook the same regardless of which one you use. So I just wanted to give you that little hint. If you're going to use the mussels, make sure that you wash them really well with a hard brush, rinse them, tap them on the counter. If they pop open, toss them. You don't want to cook those. And we'll check in on the next step. Okay, so you can see the chorizo's cooked up really nice. It's got browns on their sides. I've used, of course, the Pampered Chef mix and chop tool to get them nice and small. And we don't want them as small as the ground beef, like when we made the Mexican pizzas the other day. Because you're gonna kind of soup this up with bread and stuff, so you don't need to have them too small. But our next step is to add in our harissa paste. So this is a homemade harissa paste because I like to play with the heat a little bit. So harissa paste is actually made from red peppers, and I think it's from Africa. It's like something that's used often out there. What I use is just a tablespoon of tomato paste and a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and mix it all together, and that's what I use to add into my tomato base. So I'm gonna add that in. And then I'm also gonna add in some red pepper flakes. So this is 2 tablespoons of red pepper flakes. We're not gonna use all this. We're actually gonna use about half. And you can adjust this to whatever your family likes. So my hubby likes things spicy, so I'm gonna put a nice big scoop in there. And then stir this all up. Gonna get that harissa paste really mixed into the chorizo. It's got a really good, almost like spicy flavor, and you can see the onions are nice and caramelized in there. It's a really good mixture going on. So now that I got that mixed in, I am going to turn my heat up just a little bit, because my next step is going to be to add in my white wine. So this is 3/4 cups of white wine. I'm going to add that in there. I'm going to let it boil, which it should do right away because these pots are really hot. And then I'm going to turn it down just so it simmers. And then I'm going to add in my chicken stock. And this is going to become our base. And I'm going to let that cook down just a little bit. I'm going to stir it up and really let that boil down a little bit. I'm going to use my salt and pepper mixture and garlic mixture. Really season it well. It's going to brighten up all the flavors. I'm going to let this come to a boil, and I'm going to just let it simmer for, 3 to 5 minutes is really all you need. And then go from there. So we'll be right back. Okay, so you can see I'm boiling here. A lot of my liquid is already kind of evaporated down. I have a nice base going. I got the onions, the chorizo, the homemade harissa paste, garlic, a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, chili pepper flakes, and now I'm gonna add my meat. So this is the meat I was talking about. They're already obviously pulled from the mussels, so I'm gonna add those in. This is already cooked, this meat, so I'm really just giving it a nice, good heating all the way through. Nice. I'm gonna let those heat up a little bit, and while that's happening, I'm gonna put in half a cup of heavy whipping cream. And that's gonna kind of finish out our base right there. Stir that in. I'm gonna let these boil and then simmer together for about another 3 to 5 minutes, really. It's not a long time that it needs to be cooked down, and kind of leave it like that. So once it gets to a boil, I'm going to let it simmer 3 to 5 minutes, and then I'm going to finish it out, and we are actually almost done. Okay, so this has been simmering for about 3 to 5 minutes. You can see it's got a really good color. You can see all of the little pepper flakes in there, the chorizo, the onion, the meat, and the cream has just kind of thickened it all up. So now what we're gonna do is add in our mussels. Remember, these are already cooked, so I'm really just reheating these, for lack of a better way to say it. And you can actually serve this dish without the mussels in it, the whole mussels I mean. Looks a little bit better for presentation, but really that meat that you've already put in there in the last step is enough. So it's kind of up to you. I think it looks a little bit better, and you can also use the shell as a vessel to really scoop up all of this cream. I mean, it's just a really good base, so we don't want it to waste. Okay, that's gonna simmer 3 to 5 minutes just to get heated all the way through, and then I'll be back. So these have been simmering for about 3 to 5 minutes. They should be, well, I said 3 to 5 minutes, but they've really been simmering on me like here about 6 minutes, but that's okay. We're just trying to reheat them all the way through. The flame's on super low, so I don't have to worry about anything overcooking. I'm gonna add a little bit of lemon just to brighten up all of our flavors a little bit. Get my seeds out. A little bit of lemon in there. Stir that in. And now we are pretty much ready to plate. So let me get a bowl and we'll get this all put together to eat. Okay, so I got my big bowl here. I'm really just gonna scoop right in all of our broth. Make sure I'm getting nice big spoonfuls of the meat. Now this should have about 4 servings in it, depending on how closely you follow the recipe. There we go. So we have, add a little bit of green onion. I'm gonna add it on one side. And there we have it. So we have chorizo and mussels in a white wine sauce. It was super easy to make. We basically had 1 medium chopped onion that we cooked in about 2 tablespoons of butter. We cooked that down. We added 2 tablespoons of garlic paste in there, some chili pepper flakes, and which you can use any kind of amount that you want. I put about 1 tablespoon in there. Let that cook down nice and good. And then we added in 1.5 cups of chicken broth. We added our harissa paste, which was 1 tablespoon of tomato paste with 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. We let that cook in. Then we added in our chicken broth. We added in our mussel meat, and then let that cook down and boil and simmer a little bit. We added in heavy whipping cream, which was, I believe, 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream, and let that cook down. And then we added our whole mussels in, and we are done. So let me get some bread on this, and we'll show you a final picture and go from there. And there we go, all done. We have, basically, it took me about 11 minutes to cook this total. That included the prep time, and especially if you keep the mussels or the clams, if you decide to use clams frozen and on hand, it's just such a fast dish to make, and it's really good. It's got a lot of juices and that broth. The bread's gonna kind of soak it all up, so it works out really well. And it's one pot, which I like, so it's really only one thing left to clean. But let me switch my view around here because I just want to check in with everyone. I hope everyone is staying safe and doing well, and you know, not getting out there more than you have to. I hope you guys really like this recipe. If you make it, take a picture, tag me. I've been getting a lot of really good feedback on the other recipes that I've done. I love seeing the pictures come in and getting them sent over to me. There's been a couple changes that some of you have done for your family that have been great that I might try. So try this. Don't be scared of the mussels. You can always use clams. It's super easy. And I'll post the recipe because I know when I recap, I always forget to tell you one of the items I used. I have to actually make it and get it together to remember. So I'll post it in the comments just in case you guys decide to make it. Hope everyone's staying safe. We're doing well here, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Have a good night.